Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Nation here. And man, I haven't done an interview in quite a few weeks. Today I'm actually joined by a very talented 3D animator. Maybe that's not the only thing he does in the fandom. um, Hello.
Wait, that was my cue? Oh my god, sorry. So I'm Minty Root. I'm mostly in the fandom a 2D animator who does 3D, who adds 3D elements to his animations. But in real life, I'm a special effect artist in a special effects studio that mostly does 3D stuff for movies. That's pretty much it. I started in the fandom back in 2013. I was doing some Flash animation and with some 3D effects in them to which later I decided to jump on some more ambitious projects.
Okay,
And that's
okay.
basically my whole story.
Um, what got you into the fandom?
My best friend, who basically couldn't hide his figurines hard enough, which basically prompted me to just realize you're a brony. Like, no, that's not a bad thing. That's just like brony fandom is a real thing, like a legit thing that people will actually enjoy, not just ironically.
Okay.
Can you show me a few episodes? Yeah.
So, how did you get to where you are now?
Back in 2008, I decided to start with Flash, and I basically found a CD with a demo of Flash that could allow me to actually learn how it worked. Just learn the basics, how to make keyframes, how to make symbols, and just get started with it. After a while, I realized that Flash could make some interesting things. I made my own stories with video game sprites. It was not very something very ambitious and something very complex, but I had some fun with it. Until I realized when my best friend introduced me to the show that it was also animated in Flash. So I thought, well, if I have Flash and they have Flash, well, maybe I have something to make stuff for the fandom. I could make my own stories as well.
So, when did you start doing MLP based stuff? And did you start with a base of like fandom based stuff, or was it always
Uh
canon type show?
oh well, back in 2013, I decided to explore the idea of Derpy Hooves because I thought, well, she's kind of treated like a very clumsy character who makes mistakes all the time, and I just think, well, it's kind of interesting. Maybe I could try to tell a nice story about it, to try to tell, uh, my headcanon of what happened to Derpy Hooves. I didn't really want to explore OCs back then because I didn't really know. Well, I didn't really realize that some people that were interested in OCs. I just thought of OCs like, my own mascot, my own character that I could put on stuff to say, hey, I did that stuff. Because back in the days, I was going to BronyCon 2013. I was thinking, well, some people make their own OCs, so I should make my own. And I just thought, well, okay, OCs should be used for that. And after a while, I just realized that some people wanted to do stuff with OCs. For example, there was Good Morning Baltimore, which used OCs for mascots, but it was mostly just about the fandom, not for the fandom. To as some kind of odd concept.
Um, tell me this as well. So, what projects have you? I have a few questions. What projects have you done uh, back then that are better now, or what you would have changed? And the other two questions are: throughout your time in the fandom, who have you met, and do you still stay in contact with these people?
That's two very, very different questions. There's lots of things I would have changed in some of my previous projects. For example, I just look at Luna's determination. I realized, for example, the way I decided to stylize the 3D for some of the scenes with the bell. I just realized that while it looked rather photorealistic, and it kind of worked with the backgrounds. I should have went with something a bit more toon-like because my initial goal was to make it look very metallic to convey the actual feel of the bell. Just see it as just a boring prop, and it made me realize that I made a mistake of judgment. Mistake of judgment. There's Project Undercloud 2, which should never have been done the way it was, because I realized it was way too ambitious of myself to get done. Because I realized, 22 minutes of animation of one person is just too much. So, and it didn't really allow me to actually put the time I wanted to put without rushing things a lot. There was there was Dinky's Destiny, which was a mess as well, but mostly because of the script itself. There was lots of ideas that I had in mind, but they didn't really show much in the actual first act, because I had an idea of 4 acts for the whole story, and I did realize that some people saw them as episodes, and just me cutting the story in parts, because I couldn't make 45 minutes at once. So they got confused. I thought that it was supposed to answer most of the questions that it brought itself, and then follow the actual events. But they got very confused and didn't really see it as a teaser. They saw it really as a pilot. Otherwise, there was some stuff in Good Morning Baltimore that I would have done a bit differently. Though I was not the director on that one. I was mostly just one of the animators that was part of the project. I realized that as I was working on a project, it could have helped to have some more shading on the characters, and some of the animation was a bit messy because lots of people were working on the animation at once, and they had very different approaches to how they did the movements. So trying to make it work as as a whole piece is kind of difficult, especially when you get when you get the visuals are supposed to match as well in terms of look. So when you look at something, the look influences how you think the animation should look like. So if you have something that looks very shiny, very metallic, and it just bounces like rubber, you'd be confused. So the idea that you have the same character that looks the same in 2 scenes but don't move at all, the same at all, kind of makes it different. So the idea that if you had some kind of, you had PD who was the director, who was kind of helping us to get the actual animation to look good. But the idea that we were not working on all the scenes at once, but gradually working on first scene towards the next, made that the first scenes didn't really feel as much like the last scenes. Otherwise, there was some stuff like the screen direction, for example, stuff for going to the left or to the right without any cohesive manner. So, and at the same time, it kind of doesn't need to be as well. As kind of exploring convention. You go from left to right to left to right to see all of it. But the idea that you'd follow the 3 main characters as they go in the convention could be amplified by the idea that you just have the camera always going in the same direction for all the shots because they're following a path. But that's not that much. That's not the end of the world as well. Not everybody care that much about that little effect, So.
I also had 2 other questions after that.
Yep. Second one, you were asking for the people I actually got to meet. I got to meet Pika PD, who taught me a lot about how to approach character animation. I got to have some help. For example, just with learning Toon Boom from Duo Cartoonist and TROI, who had very, very, very different approaches to how they did their animation. Apart from that, there was lots of little animators. There was H3, there was Mega Man, HXX, well, make Mega Man Hunter. Sorry, I'm just going with the. There was. Let me think. Yeah, well, those are the animators that I'm thinking. Who, I had either projects with or a lot of talk. There's also Pymations, though we didn't really talk much about. Well, we talked a bit about ideas more than talking about the actual animation itself. Otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much it.
And who do you stay connected with?
Most of them actually. I haven't really. Well, no, actually, I think, yeah, I still talk with most of them. Since we're not many animators, we're kind of stuck together. We cannot really get rid of uh, important contributors, but also, you consider them as friends after a while. So, uh, once in a while you have a little artist you get to meet. They ask some questions. They ask you how to get started. You talk to them and then they leave. But when I'm thinking of main contributors, I'm thinking of them. There was also other creators, for example, Mr. Cupcake, who I got to talk with and get to help with Flash animation. But that's pretty much it.
Okay, now I have two questions. The first question I have also asked Looney, and I do hope that it's not like kind of awkward or going anything personal with you. But what is your relationship slash friendship with Fiora?
Uh, we. Oh, that's a good question. Kind of random, but I mostly just work with her on projects. I kind of consider her as a friend, but we don't really talk much in general, apart from projects. So, it's mostly just professional relationship. It
Okay,
happens.
okay. And my second question actually, um, what was it? Is there do you go to any conventions or has your OC been anything in anything else than your projects?
Well, there was Mayosi as a cameo in the Good Morning Baltimore animated promo, and the CMPC animated promo because we needed some characters to run in a crowd. But apart from that, there's not many convention stuff where Mayosi is. I think she made an appearance in a music video once, but that's pretty much it. I
Okay,
mostly see her as a mascot rather than.
okay. And this also leads me to wonder if possible after the interview you could possibly share these links with me.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to the other questions. Uh, and this is a fandom type based question, but I've heard from other stories that like everybody like rumored that the reason why you stopped Thundercloud was because there was copyright and stuff.
The what? Sorry, you cut out.
People
Oh,
rumored that Project Thundercloud was had copyright issues, and that's why.
actually, it's kind of more complicated than that. I had as an issue mostly just the animation bases that I used. Back in the days, I used double grain boom rigs because they were the one thing that most people used. And I realized, well, many people realized that they were kind of compromised as animation rigs. They were containing some leaked assets that they didn't really have rights to. So I got a bit worried. I just didn't want to get in trouble, to have Hasbro telling me to take down the videos, and then I realized, okay, uh, third part, it's still going to be online because I have I use my own rigs, but the two others have been taken down. So you have the sequel to something you cannot show anymore. So I was just thinking, okay, if those two projects fall down, I'm screwed. So let's start with new grounds. I'll probably make some callbacks to those if I feel it works in the story, but otherwise, let's start with new grounds. Start with a story that just works on its own, so I don't, so I don't shoot myself in the foot with that. And I just realized that I didn't really have much I could do with Derpy's character as a sequel. I realized that the idea that you had Derpy proving herself to Celestia, showing that despite her weird eyes, that you know she could do something, and you had the idea that she wanted to prove herself, but she had her friends who were there to remind her you can prove herself, but you don't have to be afraid of asking for help. And as she got their help, and it turns out that her friends were there to because one of the ideas they had with the project is that the elements of harmony were supposed to respond to their bearers with the main six. But I was thinking, but should they respond only to their bearers, or should they respond to people who represented those values? So I was just thinking, what if the main six was not able to be there for the elements? What if the elements came to other people as well, as some kind of plan B? So the exploring that idea kind of worked for that. The narrative is kind of messed up. There's definitely way too much exposition. In the end, is presented as it feels like some kind of Deus Ex Machina. The idea that Dinky of all people would figure that out. I was just thinking, yeah, that's kind of some kind of ground that it's it's not strong enough as a foundation for a sequel that would follow those events. So I was just thinking, yeah, with all those problems, should I go with projects that follow their own path and all? And it is the decision. Yeah, let's just go with standalone projects that would fit their own narratives, and if there's reasons to go with callback, I will, but it's not worth it. Uh,
Okay, okay.
because
Uh, continue.
you got out.
Continue.
Oh, basically, I had some plans for a sequel, but the idea that I had in mind was that the sequel would follow not the idea that Derpy, not just follow Derpy, but the idea that Dinky would learn from Derpy, from all our struggles. So the idea that you had Dinky, who had troubles with her horn, be able to succeed, get enrolled to Celestia's School for Gifted Unicorns, and as she would get enrolled, she would go and she would go and become Celestia's favorite student, a bit like Twilight, but unlike Twilight, she would become Celestia's favorite student because of how much she would work just to get to reach her dreams. It was something that was very inspiring. But then you had the idea that you had Derpy trying to just go visit Dinky in the I say in far future, just a few years afterwards. So you have the two characters who are old enough. And I realize now that the idea was a bit too mature for the rest of it, but you had the idea that you had Derpy falling down, you know, falling down from one of the towers where Dinky lived and falling down to her doom, which had some kind of, which had a very, very, very hurting impact since she was the Dinky's role model. And as you had Dinky just realizing that just it was just unfair. You would have her trying to change the past to try to save Derpy. Um, and you had, as she saved Derpy, you had Celestia who realized that, you know, being able to do that to save her own mother was just, it was a very incredible feat. And it was very selfless as well because, she worked really hard to get to achieve that. So basically, Celestial would have given some wings to Dinky to give her a role as an alicorn. And, and I was, you know, looking back, I just realized, yeah, that's kind of Mary Sue-ish. But the idea was not that Dinky would have appreciated those wings. That is that Dinky felt like those wings were undeserved. So you had the idea that Dinky wanted to cancel the spell that gave those wings, but the problem is that she didn't cancel the spell that gave her those wings. She canceled the previous spell with the time traveling, and as it was not as intended. Dinky would be stuck in some kind of weird alternate future with by messing up the time traveling spell, bringing her in Derpy within some kind of alternate future that was really not the right one. So as she tried to find a way to get back to her original timeline by trying to figure out what the hell was the event that was, that screwed the present days, she would find out that the event itself was related to herself and, learn about herself and her origins a bit more. But that was a very, very ambitious narrative, and trying to do it on my own would have been a mess. It would have needed a lot more animations. It would have probably made a multi-part storyline that would have been difficult to deal with. So I was just thinking, yeah, just if I'm gonna do something about Dinky, I'm gonna start from scratch, so I don't have to worry about having to deal with that continuity. I'm gonna be able to, try to tell her own part of the, trying to tackle her own part of the story on its own. And that's basically how I came with the idea of Dinky's Destiny, and I was trying to pitch it totally as a series about a unicorn who was struggling with, with having a very ambitious dream, but realizing that she probably couldn't achieve it. And even though she was great at knowing about magic, the idea that she couldn't really achieve it due to having a weird horn was very, was making her struggle. So you had Luna visiting her in her dreams, to try to remind her not to be afraid of, not to be afraid of what she'd have as what she'd have as her meaning in life, because Luna herself, she was destined to something great, but with something giant like the moon. But it being the little sister, she was kind of shoved on the side. So you had really the idea of Luna trying to tell her not to be afraid too much about her destiny. And because how the show tried to are you still here? Sorry, my computer. I was talking and my computer just.
I'm still here.
Okay, sorry. I was talking for a long. Computer screens just faded out. It was just. But yeah, the in the show they put a lot of attention of how cutie marks have that much impact on their bears, how they how it's their destiny and all, and how it drives everything in their life. So the idea of someone who was destined to have a talent in something, but preventing it from happening, it's kind of like Tempest Shadow with her broken horn, but a few years back and with lot less budget.
Okay, okay. Now here's another thing. You talked a lot, and I'm in this whole loot confused thing, but I do have one question that does pertain to your animation that hopefully I don't confuse myself on, because what you, what all of you just said is I couldn't find any of that what you just said online, but
Mm,
Dinky saw Luna as Nightmare Moon, correct?
mm. Yeah.
So what does that mean? Was that a dream? What was that? Because you never finished Dinky's Destiny.
Okay, so basically the idea that was supposed to be explored, because basically you have Dinky who sees a castle. She sees it's really presented like something really big, but she realizes that the coronation room has just nothing in it. She feels like she worked for something, and she realizes that she struggles that opening the door with her own magic. She's too small to actually reach to break it, and she realizes that all that effort, even though because she realizes that the lock is broken, all of that effort is just worthless. She finds nothing, and it's kind of worrying just to realize that something that might take a lots of efforts just leads to nothing. So it's kind of representing her fears about her magic. But then she crosses with Nightmare Moon, and if you see a bit the action scene where she runs away, Nightmare Moon doesn't really try to hurt her. She's basically just running after her to try to talk to her. So as Dinky tries to run away, she falls down, and you have Nightmare Moon trying to grab her and to catch her, but she sees it as a threat. And as she falls down and just shatters herself, you have Nightmare Moon just reaching by and just asking, "Is Nightmare Moon your worst fear, or is the idea that you're worthless your worst fear?" Because you see Dinky being shattered like some kind of porcelain doll, and just she cannot really do much since she has nothing. You see her horn broken, her legs broken. She's really she's broken, and you kind of realize at that point, yeah, that's her dream. That's her worries, and you have Luna just saying, "Yeah, I've been there. I
Wait,
know, I cannot let it happen again. I cannot let you turn it like me because I got worried about the
now
idea of
I'm
my
all confused
destiny."
again.
You're more confused.
None of this happened in the animation.
Well, it was a dream. I mean, I just the idea that you have Dinky shattering like a porcelain doll kind of sells the idea, but yeah, the problem with the show itself is that you kind of see stuff like that happen in the episodes. For example, with Pinkie Pie, like you have one of the shots where she basically breaks down, like all of her animation parts have been, you know, pulled down.
Okay, okay.
So I
That's really interesting. I don't want to continue to confuse myself and my fans. So,
okay,
um, maybe we can return to this topic when you actually have the animations that are connected to what you just said.
okay.
Okay, okay. Um, oh, what to ask now? Oh, um, what made you design your character that way?
The what? Sorry, you keep cutting out.
Your OC.
The what?
Your OC.
All I hear is he.
Your OC.
Is your mic sensitivity weird because you just cut out at the beginning of your sentences? Oh, my OC. Okay, so basically in 2013, I basically just tried to make a design that looked good, and I was just trying to figure out colors that would look good. And back then, I didn't really know much, so I was just thinking, okay, let's go with something that kind of looks good together. And I realized white and green work well because green has lots of brightness and lots of range. So I could do a lot of types of green because blue kind of look weird, and white and blue you think of shining armor, vinyl scratch. You know, a lot of people already just see vinyl scratch as some brony, you know, brony bait in a way. It's really very liked by fans, but kind of generic at that point. So I go with those colors, and you know, those colors look good. And back in the days, I had my OC, and it was supposed to be a stallion because I'm a guy, so it kind of makes sense that my OC would be a guy as well. But I didn't want it to look too masculine, so I kind of went with some more feminine features because I'm not manly at all. And people thought it was a mare, so it's kind of understandable. People kind of assume things. But the problem is that by thinking it was a mare all of that time, I kind of got annoyed. And after a few months, I just realized, okay, I'm gonna make it a mare. I'm kind of tired of it. Uh, Tired of it being mistaken for a mare. It looks bad as a stallion. If I try to change it, it's gonna look weird. So I'm gonna make it a mare, and kind of just went with it. Some people found it cute, and I think like a year after we were doing some kind of storyline with my OC and a few friends OCs, something very very ambitious, and that's kind of how I came up with the idea of the character's backstory. The idea that you had uh, a unicorn who would be raised by a family of Pegasus, and she has her interest for magic, but her parents don't really understand about that. They fly and they have their wings and all. And since the whole family is just a family of Pegasus, nobody in her family really understand that. So they have to send her to Canterlot so she can go study magic. And she kind of has that disconnect with her family. She's really feeling like the odd one. Uh, and I wanted to explore that, the idea of a single unicorn in the entire family of Pegasus. There was the idea just that her family comes from Cloudsdale, so the idea that you have the unicorn who have to go visit the family once in a while, and she's kind of stuck as she doesn't really have any, she cannot really do much except you can walk on clouds with some kind of spell, but if you don't know that spell, you're stuck being tied up with on a Pegasus back at all times. So it's kind of awkward. For example, if you have a family dinner, and if it's a big family dinner, it's really really awkward because everybody looks at you. But that was kind of the idea that I went with. So
Sounds adorable. But so would you say there is a bunch of different timelines and backstories for your OC?
there is just the main timeline. I say main timeline with all with the events that I was talking about earlier. I made a male version where everything else is the same, but it's a guy. But that's pretty much it.
Okay,
Oh
okay.
wait, I did something once for just for Halloween, kind of an alternate universe where Minty was just a pet pony. So instead of being interested in unicorn magic, she was more interested in other types of magic that you wouldn't need to be a unicorn to explore. But
Forbidden magic.
otherwise, that's pretty much it. Well, I mean, I wrote a big backstory for my OC, but I didn't really do much about it. I didn't really want to animate it because I felt it was very self-centered. So just thinking, okay, I'm just gonna commission some art and just talk about it.
Okay, okay. Now, would you say that slightly animated video of Minty Root, aka voiced by Catbug, is canon. Hello?
Hmm? Yeah, sorry, you keep cutting out.
The clock fit, is that clock fit canon?
Oh, actually, I have absolutely nothing to do with that Clubfig, actually. Well, basically, the Clubfig started as a joke between me and Corpulent Brony. I was just thinking of the most awkward scenario our two OCs could get in, and he went ahead and wrote the entire Clubfig. First of all, I was kind of laughing because it was kind of hilarious as how stupid it was. And I just went with the joke. I just said, okay, my OC is a Clubfig, that's all. And he decided to make an actual entirely voiced uh, Clubfic reading with him and Kate Bug. And I was just thinking, okay, that's kind of stupid, but that's kind of stupid joke, so I'm gonna let it go
Um,
until I realized that it made 1 million views. And I was scrolling through the comments, and most of them saying, "Does Minty know about that?" I did. I just wanted to just pretend I didn't know, just so they could just speculate and just think about that because it was more hilarious that way.
now
And
that's funny. That's really funny because that, that was the that was the very first video I ever saw with your character, and I was like, huh, this person looks famous. They have quite a few views. So I clicked on the video and was like, I Google searched online, how do I find this person? So I searched around and searched and searched and searched, and then somehow I finally found you on Skype.
are you telling me that you contacted me all because of that?
Yes, that was exactly why. And
Ah, well,
my first impression was, hmm, this is a Page's sister. This person's female. They might help me with my channel. Because obviously on my side it's a sausage fest.
indeed.
Um, making this less awkward. Um, in the clock fic, was that an actual con? Is that a real con?
No. No, actually, I made sure that I would never, ever, ever, ever be rooming with Corp. Well, actually, that and the fact that he always rooms by himself. Um, no, actually, it's mostly just based on a stupid scenario we're talking about in a Skype chat like years ago, and I was just thinking of something really, really awkward.
Now,
Uh,
now,
there was there was some actual plans for a sequel playing making poking fun at the idea of the first one, but it never actually got done.
hmm, okay. And knowing this too, so did you think I asked if it was canon?
Uh, Canon. I wouldn't really say it because most of the actual elements he was talking about and the actual club fit were kind of not fitting that much with Equestria itself. Well, that and the fact that his OC's name and that is literally called Corpulent Brony, which is kind of weird because you would make a reference to the word brony and the within the realm of the show. It kind of reminds me of a fanfic I was reading. The fanfic itself was about Dinky trying to find her actual father, and within that actual fanfic, she she talks with the CMC about films and all, and they try to make a reference to Iron Man, where the actual actor's name they actually reference is Brony Stark. And I think at that moment I cringed so hard I stopped reading the fanfic.
Oh,
I was just thinking, couldn't you come up with something different like Trotter Downey Jr. or something like that?
um,
And I was impressed. It wasn't while I have that kind of fanfic I read, and at one point I just stopped. There was one I was reading that was about Twilight's last moments before she dies, and I was reading about it, and there's one scene where she says, "I cannot wait for the day I am known as Twilight Dash." First of all, I'm thinking, so last names for ponies work like real last names, where you get the last name of the other one. I was very confused. And for a second, this is a ship fic. I was thinking it was, something sad about Twilight dying, and it was not. I was very confused.
okay. That reminds me the whole Brony Start thing. So a few days ago, actually, I did a like a role play or whatever. Since my OC is a private investigator,
Okay.
I'll get into that later. I came up with that just now. Because the whole reason why I'm inspired by the private investigator thing is because Jessica Jones.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
but so my character was like, I randomly found myself in this place. I was just minding my own business at home, reading this novel by Aaron Fluffer.
Hmm.
Do you get it? Aaron Fluffer, Aaron Hunter.
Hmm.
She's the she's the author who wrote the Warrior Cat books.
Okay.
Okay, changing subject since I'm pretty sure that was cringy.
Okay.
Um, going back to the thing for the third time, I've been trying to ask: is the convention, real in that story?
Uh, well, there's no. Well, I am pretty sure, basing on what Corpulent Brony wrote, because he mostly wrote it himself. I'm pretty sure the con itself is just a joke based on, a mishmash of actual conferences that are about different subjects and actual pony conventions. Because you think, okay, real ponies, what would they do at a pony convention? They would talk about pony stuff, but they're ponies, so it's kind of like thinking of a human convention with humans talking about human stuff. So you think about, I don't know, maybe a science conference where they talk about advances in science, or approaches, for example, like a TED talk or something like that. So though there's no actual convention based on that.
Now, here's the other things too. In your time, what other bronies have you met or paid to sisters that are not in your spectrum of animating?
If you mean by spectrum of animating, by anything else but animation, the well, I went to many, 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 many conventions, so I can say lots of analysts, lots of musicians, lots of artists. Just listing them one by one would take at least a day. Just try to think of all the people I've met. And I'm not even trying to brag or anything. It's just that the Brony fandom is just full of content creators. So you just go to a pony convention that has, for example, I was last convention I've been to was HRPC. Just going to that convention, I have met lots of artists and musicians.
That's interesting because thinking about it, there's brony conventions, but then there's anime conventions, and like even the smallest anime conventions, still have so many people in very big creators and artists and shit like that.
Mm.
Uh,
I've been to two anime conventions in my past because I went there to go meet some brony friends, and I kind of like anime even though I don't watch that much. So I just thought it was an interesting approach. But just there's some vendors who some of them actually drop only stuff. There's but what I've seen with lots of anime conventions is that it's mostly about fans of anime more than content creators. There are some as well, but it's mostly fans. There was one guy who did an entire panel just talking about Studio Ghibli, and he was talking about it, and you could tell that he did lots of research about it. But it was not really much of. It was not really an animator. It was just a very dedicated fan who wanted to talk about it.
ah,
So
that's interesting. Um, I've I've only went to a few panels. The at this one convention I was at, this anime convention. It was called Konnichiwa, and there was only one fucking panel that I really liked. It was like anime anonymous 18 plus, and I sat there for an hour and a half answering like the questions that the panelists would give to the fans, and they had some interesting questions that it was. And they showed some questionable videos that I will not discuss ever.
yeah, let's not turn your cash line from green to yellow. Even though you already talked about the Minty evening, I think we don't really have to
Oh,
worry that much.
I'm
But
not
yeah, when you take back in the days, I was mostly seeing anime as very action-packed stuff, and nowadays anime is either very slice of life or very wrong. But I think it's just because of the coverage that talk mostly about those two, because they're more interesting to talk about. Uh, yeah, anime is weird.
Yeah, well, that's mainstream anime. I'm into like the non-mainstream.
Yeah, but you usually keep it hidden
Yes.
and you clean up your browsing history as well.
That's off-brand. That's totally different.
You say off brand, I'm thinking of knockoffs of animes. I've seen some very, very, very weird knockoffs. It's
No,
really
no,
weird.
no. Off-brand is the 18 plus Rule 34 stuff.
No, that name is hentai in its heart.
Yeah, that's off-brand anime is another name for hentai and ecchi.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's call it what it is. We don't really have to hide it too much.
Yeah,
But
well,
yeah, there is. I'm just thinking of all the animators who actually work on it, and they're asked to, to get it done.
um,
It's weird to think. Yeah, you have a guy who directs them, who says, "Yeah, let's make it more, give more ease to that movement, so it feels like it's more, yeah, let's, yeah." There's some anatomy weirdness in that member. Yeah, no, no, keep it like that. Yeah, and I'm just thinking of all the animator notes that are written with some very very crude words. Well, I'm just thinking of that. I haven't really explored that much of how it's actually done. I'm just picturing some people trying to discuss how to actually get it done because it might be something very very crude that is happening, but it's made by people who still have to keep their work ethic. So
okay. Yeah, it is tough, and they I honestly think they don't get it paid enough. But moving back into MLP stuff, oh, what was the other question I was gonna ask? Oh, what is and if this might be personal, what is your opinions on the whole um, Tune Critic scandal thing?
The what?
Tune Critic, or whatever his name is.
Uh, oh yeah, well, okay. That guy kind of had the worst first impression ever because within the first minutes I heard about him existing by seeing him walking around in a top hat, I was just thinking, yeah, okay, that's the guy that is not afraid to wear a top hat at the Brony convention, so it's all right. Is probably either a jackass or you know something who doesn't really someone who doesn't really is afraid of what people is thinking of him. Until I realized 15 minutes later, yeah, he did stuff to your stuff, so don't touch it. Uh, that was the worst first impression ever, and the fact that he not only decided not to feel any guilt for his actions, but also deflect all accusations by being a asshole about it, to basically trying to force me to actually accept his half-baked apologies. Definitely not thought of. Yeah, I didn't really like the and it took like 2 years and a half just to get an actual sincere apology from him, which is something you'd expect to get within a week. I didn't really have a good impression of him, and after that apology, just thinking, okay, is he gonna, finally gonna mature up and try to become a decent person? And when the actual scandal happened, I just realized, yeah, he's a lost cause, so he can go to hell. So just the idea that you had that kind of character, yeah, and I say character because he basically went and said, yeah, my problems are, I basically gonna personify all my problem to my alter ego, which I made up to try to deflect criticism, because he went and created an alter ego for his main character, who was basically cartoonsy. And when you go and you create some kind of antagonistic character like that kind of looked like the original one in a new way, it's lazy writing. You expect that from very bad cartoons, and if you have a good cartoon doing that, they're either really clever or they pull out something really, really, something really unusual to get it to work. So, I didn't really have a good impression of him. So, and just to see the idea of a very manipulative and very a guy who's not afraid of doing anything, even though it can be very immoral. Just the idea of a guy who's ready to do very thing and not be afraid at all because he has that much of an ego of himself. Uh yeah, I'm kind of not feeling bad about what happened to him. Just the idea that he was basically doing all of it, for the personality thing, and he was trying to drive people to give him money to actually live instead of actually getting a job or actually creating content to get a job. Because, for example, he was doing all those streams to get donations, and as it turned out, he had no intention of getting an education. He was living with his mom. Uh, the idea that he would just keep on doing that, and right now I'm just wondering what the hell is going on with him. Is he just not doing anything at all? Is he gonna get a job to actually get to actually live, since now people don't donate to him at all?
Now,
I don't know. I feel like he can. I feel like he can go to hell, and if he doesn't, well, too bad.
okay, so I have two questions now. So how you I I was calm and I was on the sideline with how you were addressing that on your opinion, but the way you said the last few parts is like it's like you're calling out everybody who is doesn't have a job. I kind of feel a little insulted by that. Yeah, so were you, and I was being polite.
Hmm? Sorry, you're still cutting out.
Can you hear me now? Hello? Hello?
Can you say something?
Hello? Hello?
You're still cutting out. Like you talk, and then it starts saying something. Like for the first few seconds.
Hello?
Uh, nope, not at all.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm using push to talk.
You're using push to talk.
Yes.
Okay, can you push it like earlier? Because I feel like there's some kind of lag when you talk.
Yeah, well, I'm using it now.
Okay, so what was the question?
I had two questions.
Yeah, you were talking about Toon Critic, and then
So, I was agreeing with you for the majority of the time. I wasn't going to pick sides or anything on your opinion. But there was one part that you said that off put me and felt a little insulting, like you were calling out anybody who doesn't have a job at all right now.
oh no, I never said that. I basically said that he was not only not having a job but living on and he was in his 20s. I think it was 23. He was living of his mom, and he was basically just doing nothing but streaming and kind of once in a while doing some videos, but they were not he got lots of his work done by other people. So just to have him just depend on that and not doing not getting himself a job and not trying to push the actual work, because lots of it was basically just getting money for being famous. um, I felt it very insulting from him just to get to see him do that and be very ungrateful. Just how at convention he used the closing ceremonies just to try to promote himself. Well, if you go and you look at closing ceremonies, it's supposed to be about the event. It's supposed to be about the people who contributed, but not just himself. And lots of other allegations that he had. I felt insulted of him just trying to.
That's yeah, that's very sad, and that's probably one of the biggest and worst things I've heard in the MLP fandom. But there is one person that is not in the MLP fandom that still tops the scum of the earth.
There's a few people who are yeah that are scum of the earth. Um, just taking for example, who was this one? Okay, no, I cannot go political. Uh, well, I mean, you hear about murderers all the time in the news.
Yes, that is correct. But they don't try to use like, hey, I murdered this guy to get famous or something like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
There is
I mean, there's some really.
one person that I can say, one person, and everybody hates this guy, and I'm glad he's gone. Logan Paul.
You say gone, but no, he's still going.
He's
Actually, he
coming
had an
back.
event with. Well, he's not. He was never really gone. He just decided to stop his daily vlogs. But what he was doing, like a few weeks ago, was a live show with his brother. And the live show itself is basically just him flexing about being famous and rich, which I find very, very insulting because you try to work as a creator and you try to be something, and you have that guy who basically just vlogs about his life, becomes famous because he just got there at the right time, and then just take his money to just try to do the most insane things,
And
and just by being insane, you just
it's really sad. It's insulting. The biggest
mm,
insulting thing he has ever done was decide to record that dead body.
indeed. Though, yeah, it's the biggest, but there's also lots of other stuff like all the terror he put on his neighbors
That was Jake Paul.
back in the. No, the thing is that he didn't help either. He was helping. I remember him with Jake Paul with when that happened, and just not either condemning his brother or just trying to do anything at all, because his brother was already causing chaos, but he's not helping either.
We're steering a lot away from topics.
Indeed.
y- um, so I only have a few last questions. If you had the chance to change anything that has happened in the last 8 or so years or 10, what would you change?
It's a good question. There's many things I could change, but since for example, a butterfly effect, if I change one, pretty much everything changes. For example, I did 2 years in engineering, studying engineering, and I realized after those 2 years it's not meant for me. So I'm just thinking what my life would have been if I went to animation straight up instead of actually wasting 2 years in doing that. But then again, wasting that time actually made me realize how much I actually liked to do, to do animations. So there is that. I'm just thinking, what if how my life would have been if instead of making a sequel to Project Thundercloud, I just fixed the first one and then focused on other projects because I had some ideas in my mind to explore. But back in the days, I was just thinking, okay, let's go with Project Thundercloud 2 since I could talk about the background six, since I felt like it was something that belong to the fans. Since the show wouldn't explore their lives, so I was just thinking, okay, let's do something for the fans because I went BronyCon 2013 and just saw all the amazing stuff. Just so I was just so grateful of all this, what it made me realize that I wanted to give back. But I realize now, was it the best way to give back? Could I have done something a bit different? There's definitely with Dinky's Destiny, which I could have explored differently. Like for example, I wanted to make the whole thing happen in the dream, since within the realm of the dream, I could do a lot more things that were earth shattering. I could focus, well, I could break and make the actual canon without worrying too much about continuity issues, but because while I was working with Project Undercloud 2, they introduced the elements of harmony with the actual tree that would have itself. Well, that would actually have the elements. So it's kind of screwed with that. So I was just thinking, okay, if I go with the realm of dreams, I can neglect a few of the canon elements and just focus on the story itself. But looking back, I should have went with the actual life of Dinky, just to explore a bit how it went before the actual dream. Uh, there's other stuff. There's some of how the Good Morning Baltimore animation went that could have happened differently. For example, we had some the animation rigs for Blank Invit's main event were not matching at all with Hoofbeats because of some weird direction. So I was just thinking, okay, I could have done that differently. Otherwise, there's GNMA, a convention I've been to that kind of took lots of my money, and I realized, yeah, it's kind of not worth it. At least personally, because I went there with a friend, and at conventions, I used my debit card. I had a panel with where nobody even showed up. So that's one of the tiny things. Apart from that, maybe kind of I should have kept more contact with my high school friends. But then again, I don't know how they would have felt with the idea. Oh yeah, oh, and Brony is a fan of a show that is kind of meant for young girls and young families. And yeah, make edgy stuff about it. So yeah, that's what I've done since high school.
Okay, okay. Uh, two last questions. How do you feel, or can you have felt back in the past, or now even, that a lot of like old famous animation YouTube channels have died?
Well, just you just have the idea that YouTube itself is going against fresh content delivered every day, and I think YouTube kind of wants to be a channel full of videos you hear but you don't watch because you kind of want to be on the side while stuff happen. And they kind of don't realize that YouTube is more a platform for filmmaking because you can deliver your own stories, you can deliver stuff that can be told with video because lots of YouTube videos can be summarized by just reading stuff. You're just looking at footage of someone playing a video game to just fill up that. It's less of just people talking, and I feel like the medium is kind of not explored properly. Just the idea of music, for example, how you can make music playlists on YouTube, and it's kind of wasting the actual video itself, but it's something very creative, something you can actually enjoy without watching. But there's some creators who actually make video essays where they talk about subject, and you can see clearly that they put lots of efforts on it. They actually do their research. They have footage that match it, but it's a video essay, so it's not their content. But there's just so much video content that YouTube promotes. It's just people just talking and talking and talking and nothing else. And the problem itself is not just that they have those videos because YouTube, they have lots of storage to actually host it, so they don't really have to worry about hosting it. But they just realized, yeah, let's make it our content and try to be like TV, but they kind of don't explore the idea that you have content creators who actually do animation, and animation takes time, so I cannot make a lot, but it's something that you can watch, and you usually have your eyes focused on it and nothing else. You don't blink and look at other stuff while it happens, because pretty much everything that happens with the frame has been meticulously planned for that. So kind of hurts the animators that YouTube doesn't do anything about it. There's other platforms, but for example, Newgrounds, which was a platform for animators and game developers, it's not as strong as before. People just try to consume just stuff, and the way that they consume stuff just doesn't fit for animation anymore. So I either do something else in animation, but I'm not much of a personality, so just thinking, okay, I cannot really do much that is not animation. I cannot just do video essays or just do storytime animation, because storytime animation is not animation. It's just people talking, and they have visuals that accompany it. And usually they talk about their lives. So there's not really much that is really interesting about it, and the animation aspect. Once in a while, you have some people who can get very creative, but usually the actual stuff that they talk about is the actual focus. So if I want to try to drive a narrative, uh, for example, with Luna's determination, lots of it screen and you have the music. You don't hear what is going on, so you cannot just have it in the background unless you really like the music itself. So, but then again, there's the music itself. So, and YouTube just drives content that looks like itself. So if you have animations don't look the same. You have, for example, you just have Luna's determination, which is going to be very, very different from. It's very grown up, which is just a parody of a Peppa Pig scene, but with different music. So you have that is very different, while you have videos that are mostly vlogs or people who just mostly do video essays about the same stuff. So it doesn't really drive much people outside of those boundaries. And with animation, if it looks the same, people just pick up with that. So if I do an animation about Luna and then I do another animation, it drives people to just get tired. So I'm kind of screwed with YouTube itself. And lots of people just gave up or just went with other stuff that is more productive. In my case, I already have a job, so I don't really have to worry too much about it. I mostly just use YouTube as a platform for the stuff I want to do, but even then, it's really tough because you struggle. You have all your software that goes against yourself. For example, just today I was fighting against Toon Boom because my rig itself, but I have some stuff that doesn't want to just to behave the way I want it to. So just fighting against that is really just a mess. So yeah, people give up, and it's very easy. Uh, some people just focus on drawing art and just drawing itself. And personally, I'm just wondering, should I do that? Should I just focus on still art or just scenic stuff? I don't know. I'm kind of wondering how the hell I'm gonna even keep going because there's Patreon to help me a bit to improve my equipment because that stuff can be expensive, but doesn't cover much. That's sad.
That's very interesting. Actually, now I have another question out of the last one. I'll ask this one before the last one. With actually, I have something to talk about before the two questions. What you had
Okay.
said does address the problems is YouTube, and it is sad, but there is also other parts with like where some animators, not mainly MLP based ones, get bored of their content because they've been doing it for so long that some of them just get depressed from it. Like do you remember the Astafus videos?
Not really.
Well, Tom Staw has been doing the Astafist videos
Oh,
for
as the I always called it ASDF movie.
yeah, he has been doing
Yeah.
that for
Well, I mean, he did 10 of them.
he's been doing them for the last 10 years, and there was in his last video, the muffin thing of that animation, there was a short scene where he like it shows like him, and then it goes over the course of years. It's like a rough drawing animation of him basically just signing papers over and over of like um when you signature something for a fan. It
Oh, autographs.
yeah, it showed his character autographing for like 10 years, and after like the segments of the animation, he like would slowly get slumped over and look very depressed. So made this addressed fans to make and ask if he's in a bad state of mind, if he's very depressed, because he's stuck in doing the same thing.
Well, the thing is that with animation, you want that has never been done before. Just for example, we when you see an animated film, it's supposed to be a very, very fantasy-like uh, type of universe, something you don't really see outside of that. So if you keep doing that, it kind of gets boring because it gets very casual. It gets very similar to everything else you've already done. It's kind of why, for example, Flash animation for at least 8 years, and then I realized that Flash itself kind of sucks. So I've been exploring Toon Boom, and it's really a struggle because if you want to go out of your boundaries and do something different, you're gonna have stuff going on. For ASDF movies, there's just fans who just want to keep on watching it, and it's not a bad thing to want to watch something that is already good. But the problem is, how do you make it different, but the same? So you struggle with that, and when you try new stuff, you struggle because it's new stuff, you haven't been used to it. um and the fans see that it's different, so it's probably bad because it's different, although some people think of the opposite. It's a struggle. You and some people get bored of the same thing all over and over again because they get just used to the pipeline. There's no challenge like before. Depends to all the people.
I'll um I'll send you the link to the video I was talking about just a little bit ago, and the two final questions that I'm gonna say are you talked a little bit of the FOE type stuff, so this leads me to wonder what have you done in the FOE fandom?
FOE, FOE,
Fallout
Fallout of
Equestria.
Equestria. Oh, actually, I was never really actually following it because I never really watched much or played much about Fallout. I know it exists, but that's pretty much it. I don't know. It's not my thing, but there's lots of people who enjoy it. Personally, I don't really have any plans related to that because I don't think I'd be able to give the original material justice because I don't really understand it too well. Also, it's kind of too dark for me, so
Okay, okay. Um, damn it. Uh, two last questions, I swear. Um, and this one is the final one before the other one I have to ask you, which the other one is smaller, but it's a more like bound thing, not like an interview based question. But since you know the other a lot of other people in the Brony fandom, I'm hoping that you at some point can try to introduce me because my goal is to interview like anybody famous in any of the fandoms.
I mean, if you want to interview famous people in fandom, the thing is that lots of there's some people in the fandom who they're famous, so there's lots of people who go around them and they want to talk to them or get something from them. And yeah, I cannot really use much of myself for that. It's not really that I don't want to help. It's just that you know, it's their time and their own personal stuff that gets in the way. So I wish you luck for that, but
Yeah, that's sad. Because I'm really trying to, and I'm not famous enough to do this shit on my own to try to contact these people.
yeah,
But that doesn't matter. And what you said with like they're busy with their own time, so am I.
yeah.
I'm busy
Hmm.
every single day of my life, and there was one key part of that where I realized sometimes I don't have as much time as I think I do certain things
Mm,
because I forgot about an interview with Fiora because I was
mm,
too busy doing another interview with someone way more important than them.
mm,
And I really hope, no hate on you, Fiora. Hopefully that wasn't an insult.
mm.
Um, the last question though. What, uh, what was your, what was like, did you get told what your character was gonna do in any of the cameos?
Oh, actually, I already knew about it. The reason my OC showed up in Good Morning Baltimore was not because they put my OC in it, but because I put my OC in it. Basically, the idea was, well, we had, we're a little project, we don't have lots of time, but we want people to enjoy it, and we want the animators to feel like it's their project. So what I was told was basically you can put your OC in the scenes you worked in, and the reason why my OC shows up so much is that it was given so many scenes, and at some point it was just thinking, okay, I worked in lots of scenes, but I don't want to put my OC everywhere. There's some scenes where I won't, and I'll just be fine with that. There was the one scene. Well, there was one scene where I decided to give a cameo to my second OC, which I had never really talked about. So the plushie scene where you see the plushie cannon being thrown, and you see you see four ponies just jumping by. There's my OC, there's her sister, there's Written Shape, one of the other animators. He was not working in that scene, but I felt like his OC would fit. Also because there was three mares, and I felt kind of balancing with that stallion. And there's Spring Hope, the OC of the well, she that year she was not the co-chair, but she was the one of the relation with between the panelists and the con. And I was just thinking, okay, gonna put that scene. And since she works for the con, I don't want her to feel like she's on the side. So I'm gonna give her OC a lead in trying to get that flush. But since you don't really get to see the actual pony grabbing it, you know, uh, there won't be any. It's just going to be implied that she has a lead on that.
Ah, okay.
Uh,
So yeah, it's funny. I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a few fans that like are watching my stuff that won't comment, but they're gonna think, "Wow, he is very super eager and still happy knowing that his his father was in the hospital."
yeah, that's yeah,
Yeah, I'll tell you why uh I'm happy and eager after. So yeah,
yeah.
so
Well, I
it's
mean,
off
if
the
he's in
camera.
the well, I mean, if he's in the hospitals, it means he's alive. So I'm just thinking, okay, that's one good news. Also, if he's in the hospital, it's better than not in, and he's not given, he's not given care of. It's there's some danger.
Yeah,
There's
well, it's
there's many
it's
ways to look at it.
it's good that he lived and stuff. But one of the big things that I want and still want is my uncle back.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, but that's about it. I was really hoping you could actually try to introduce me to people, but I guess not. Sad days.
well, yeah, the thing is that bronies are not very well, except at pony conventions, they're not the best at being social. So even if I try to introduce you to them, I don't even know if they're going to be open at all. Like there's many brony animators, well, I've talked to, who are difficult to talk to because the just the thought of actually talking with people is really tough for them. And that happens. There's some creators who just are not very easy to approach, but they're good people nonetheless.
Interesting, interesting. Well, at least you can try or something.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's all I have to say. Is there anywhere like any of my fans could find you? Because I have to link somewhere to find you.
There's my YouTube channel, which is kind of where my content is. Personally, I recommend the stuff that is in the main page because I feel like the stuff that is in the actual video page, there's some of my old stuff that I don't want people to actually look first because I feel like it's not the best representation of myself. You want to show what you want to show the stuff that is under your control that feels like what you can do rather than the stuff like where you lost control of project but you had to deliver and you feel like it's not representing yourself that much. uh Apart from that, there's my Twitter, but the Twitter itself is linked to the YouTube account. And if you want to ask me questions, always there on Twitter. Although the DMing stuff kind of works weird on mobiles. If you have questions, don't be afraid. Apart from that, there's Tumblr, but I basically just take Tumblr for long questions because it's a better platform for that. Also for actually answering with some visuals. Apart from that, yeah, that's pretty much it. I used to use Facebook for that, but Facebook is kind of lame, and not that many people actually talk on there. So yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, it was really great having you. Hopefully you can link the where to find you so I can put it up faster and quicker.
Alrighty. Actually, you have my link. Yeah, one of the things is that thanks to YouTube and Google the Complete, my YouTube channel is the thing that shows up when I look on YouTube. Well, that and the fact that I don't leave my browsing history that much, so it just takes the first thing I usually look up. And I usually look up my own channel because I want to see if anything happened. And usually nothing happened because it's an animating channel and those are dying.
Interesting,
Oh,
interesting.
also to keep check on if they changed another thing because changing everything.
The algorithm.
Oh my god, the algorithm. Like the one sacred thing that you have no control over that dictates your life and that you don't know how it works at all.
Yeah. I'm looking at this right here too. I see you still have your vector, and this leads me to wonder who drew your profile photo.
The profile, the one I have in Discord.
Yes.
That one was drawn by Songhard VA. Uh, you just have to look up that exact name and should come up with that name. She gave it as a gift. I think it was for my birthday. I don't even remember the actual moment it happened.
Oh, that's interesting. I requested this image actually for like a thumbnail because and it looks amazing. The artist has gotten better over the years. I'll show you two different things actually real quick of what she did. Taking some time. Hey, load your sweet time. God damn it. Let's load up, son of a bitch. See that's her new art.
Oh, nice.
That's what she's drawing now, and it looks it could be better. And this is what she was like drawing back then.
I can definitely see For example, just the use of gradient change a lot. Um, Wait, is that? Oh, never mind. That there's some patterns I was just thinking. Yeah, I mean, if you look, for example, at what I've done, how it looked different and how it just looks right now, you don't you don't feel it that much in real time because you don't you once in a while you see some improvements in your work, but taking a look back at your old work and your new work actually means a lot if you look at just a few years. And if you look at everything else that changes in years, in the span of a year, it feels weird to just look at yourself. um, yeah, personally, if I have one thing that I can recommend to artists and animators to look at what they do right now and what they did and expect it to keep going, because lots of creators, when they just think, okay, that's my peak, that's my peak, and they don't really see how they can push, because they don't realize that the push that they gradually do every day means a lot more in the grand scheme of things that they think. So, for example, just how I improve my shading between Luna's Determination and the Fall of Sunset Shimmer, just by realizing how to group the eye reflection, the shine itself. Because at Luna's Determination, made the mistake of having the shine getting darkened, because I was looking at the entire body of the character and then just shading over it, which was a really bad approach. So just having the shine itself on an independent layer that I could actually put, that would not be influenced, or I wouldn't have the shadow going above it, so that the shine itself would pop. Just that change made a lot of differences. That and different approach of how I did the shadow itself. Um, and that's a thing I didn't really realize I would get to just in that project. And for creators, it means a lot just to see improvement, because we just feel like we get we feel like we become more out of the same thing. I'm basically the same body as I was before. I didn't really grow on, develop super strength. I just realized how to be better with what I had. I didn't really get any additional help, as, for example, more staff to work on that same stuff. I just realized new approaches to the same thing. And, as creators, it means a lot. It means more focus on our stuff, with the, how, because, as a creator, you try to create and to get stuff done on a regular basis, and you want to push lots of polish in your animation, and you realize, yeah, I must deliver. And so you don't really have the time to do everything. But as you get better, for example, how to cut things out. For example, how not to waste your time on stuff that would be kind of pointless. Uh, just doing that means a lot for creators to be able to achieve something even better in the same amount of time. For example, I've seen lots of people who do like hour challenges, where they just do a piece of art in just 1 hour, and just look at some of them. They just look amazing with that hour. I'm kind of jealous, because just an hour for me, just thinking, yeah, all I'm gonna have done within the hour is just lining up the character. And I was just thinking just looking at myself, what I did in about an hour for the first sketches, and what I can do right now. What right now I'm able in an hour just get just one sketch of the character fully done, while back in the days I would just take an entire night just to get one sketch done on paper. Because one of the things I would do would be to sketch the outline of a character, then actually apply a second sheet and draw on that sheet the actual finished product. While I realized that at some point, no, it's just do the actual sketch and then just clean up that actual sketch on that same paper. It just be fine. stuff that I learn. For example, I also learned how to approach the muzzle because my first characters, the way that they had muzzles kind of look awkward until I realized, yeah, just put a cube on the face and just make it a mouth. So
Okay.
that's pretty much it.
Okay. Yeah. Well. Um. Very interesting. Ah, man, you have a lot to talk about. A lot more than a lot of other people I've interviewed.
Hmm.
Uh.
Well, I'm not even approaching some stuff that I struggle with. For example, rendering. There's some just for example, there's some scenes that I work on my current project. Just getting one image ready with the actual lighting, it takes like 4 minutes just for a frame, and you have like 90 frames. And an animation can have like thousands of frames so that you have to render. So you have to learn how to optimize it. There's how to rig stuff, and just realizing that your rig is gonna have stuff that goes within itself, so you have to struggle with it. So
That's really good. That's very good to talk about. I really like your optimism. You are very energized.
well, thank you.
Um. Sadly, we are out of time right now. But oof, I'm gonna say my really cringy intro. Hope you guys liked that video, and remember, join the nation, Preacher Nation. And also, actually, I'm gonna plan on interviewing the one, the only, the biggest famous motherfucker, better than K-Cat, Somber. Um, but yeah, any last words you want to say?
I wish all of a wonderful week because it's for me it's a 4-day week here because we had some holidays. So apart from that, wonderful week. Have fun, and if you want to become a creator, go for it. You don't need to make. You don't need to be. You don't need to go with the sky. You can go with something very small. People love creators to just create stuff because they want to and because they have that fun. Just create, and you'll find yourself. It might take a time, it might take time, but it's gonna be worth it. And don't become an animator just for the fame, because I think that animation is its own reward. Just the idea that you have something that you can show, that you can be proud of, that you created, that you can talk about, that you can that you can enjoy, not just be for the actual result, but the act itself of creating it. To be able to say that you put your time on something, it's kind of your baby. Uh, and as creators, I want more people to want to create. It doesn't need to be big. For example, we've seen lots of people stuff that went viral in fandom. That was that was very simple. And I think the fandom itself needs creators who want to inspire other people, because I've seen in society recently there's lots of just iPad people. They just go with because if you have, for example, an iPad, it's meant as a media consuming device where they just consume stuff, but they don't really create much. And it kind of drives people to think that stuff is going to be created for them. So the idea that you have creators just creating and inspiring other people to create is going to make them want to make more stuff. And for example, I just the idea that I can create stuff also inspired me to want to create, not just create, but do stuff on my own. For example, I had to replace a tire in my car, and I had to. So just to know that I can do stuff that's very ambitious, so I can do stuff in real life, like it drives people to create and to be more than what they do. And I think that's what we need. They're just people who watch vlogs and just think that life is just about being instead of creating. Uh, and yeah, I hope you all I hope to see some of you just create stuff, and I wish you all a good time, and just go look at stuff I be able to create in the future. I have some other projects I want to go I want to explore. Uh, and there might be a time where I won't do pony stuff, and I think that's still as important. And I think don't watch stuff just because it has the stuff you like in it. Well, just that stuff is based on stuff you like in it. Just watch stuff because you think there's good in it. So I wish you all a good time. Thank you.
Well, that's it. And remember, join the nation, create a nation. Bye bye.